On December 8th, I turned 35, triggering the beginning of my 12th house year. A year indicative of spirituality, navigating mental health, endings, transformation, navigating loss, and shadow work. So what better time to share 35 life lessons I've learned in my 35 years that feel especially noteworthy to speak on today. I've lived hard, I've made friends, I've lost friends, I've traveled, I've done so many different things, I've been sick and healthy and everything in between. If any of these help you or make your situation feel even a little bit easier, it was worth the blood, sweat, and struggles all along the way. The rumors are true. Good things require work. No shortcuts allowed. On the other hand, if it's all work and otherwise joyless, the best effort might be to just let yourself quit. Life is too short to wait for when you've lost the weight to wear the crop top. Wear the damn crop top when you feel like it. Work on your money wound before it works on you. If you're afraid of checking your account balance, you probably need to check it way more than any other time. Take a moment to really think about what you were so afraid of. If someone's trying to convince you they're a good person, but never acting like it, they're probably not a good person. If they haven't asked you anything about you on top of it, they might also be self-centered or insecure, or both. Be honest about what a rich life actually is for you. Is it truly owning a big house with high property tax bills? Or is it living in a walkable city and being able to afford a daily coffee? That being said, if you need a day job just to pay the bills, focus on your own quality of life and what you can do regularly that requires the least amount of sacrifice from you. It may seem like the mission-aligned day jobs may fuel you while you work on your passion project, but more often than not, that'll only confuse you. If you end up taking a creative or writing-based job, that means writing may end up feeling like work and the last thing that you want to do. Romanticizing your daily life is a good idea regardless of how all else is going on in your life, but it's especially important to keep it going when you're bummed about the state of affairs. Keep in touch with your siblings, unless they suck, in which case never talk to them again if you can help it. It's never too late for speech therapy or any type of therapy. If a little mouth fitness is all that's stopping you from putting yourself out there, it's worth the growing pains of literally relearning how to swallow and speak. You don't need to associate with ancestors who have meant you harm or would have been dismissive of you or your identities. Put the call out with other allies instead. To this day, I still regret not going to meet Tony Todd when he was still alive. I honor him in other ways, including dedicating any and all horror writing to him. Prioritize connections while you have the chance and don't treat death like the end, but a way to engage differently. The sooner you can unlearn thinking gods are angry at you for slipping in your practice, the better. Unfollow any and all accounts that make you feel like you're bad or only ever seem to punch down other witches or practices. Don't let their narcissism make you feel like you can't practice or stop you from practicing. Also, if they never cite their teachers that got them to where they are now, stop and think about who is really benefiting the most from your engaging with them on a regular basis. Honor and embrace when creativity hits you like a lightning bolt. Let yourself say, what if, when you're stuck? And you'll not only end up with the solution to their problem, but also new ideas for a new project that will probably try to seduce you into quitting your current project. If at all possible, try to resist that. If you can help it, spring for the more expensive furniture. The cheap stuff is cheap for a reason. And while budgeting is always a good idea, you should always have infinite reserves set aside for books, candles, and coffee. Plan a trip, book the flight, decide to drive to Michigan on a whim. To this day, I've never regretted a trip, no matter how rocky or complicated. You don't have to keep gifts you received just because you received them. You're also allowed to say what you do or don't want, because that's ultimately going to be your burden to bear in the end anyway. It's exactly how a 90-something-year-old German woman I know has over 30 handbells to her name that she merely tolerates. It's also how I ended up with 4 of them in my possession. Don't let your love affair die just because you're both getting older. Keep surprising each other. At baseline, send each other memes of animals in love and say, "This is us." A drunk producer in a now-defunct restaurant in Greenpoint, Brooklyn will someday tell you that it isn't about finding your perfect match, but the person whose qualities you think you can tolerate until one of you dies. It is important that you listen to and trust that while this sounds incredibly unhinged, it may prove more correct than not in the long run. The same man will also try to buy you a shot of whiskey at 1 p.m. on a Saturday and then show you the pictures of the insides of a certain actor's medicine cabinet. It's probably best if you decline both of those things. You really can't out-exercise a bad diet. If money is tight or if your mental health isn't good and all you can do is bring yourself to work out, it's better to let yourself do that than to lament not being where you'd like to be. If powerlifting is what's keeping you hanging on by a thread, then hold on to that barbell and don't let go. Your therapist's right. I statements are important. You can't fully avoid some arguments, but you can bring the temperature down on them considerably. If you're angry during an argument and can tell that you're very angry with yourself, it might be worth it to press pause until you're in a place to deal with a problem related to the other person. It doesn't mean that you completely avoid this other larger conversation, but it's hard to solve a we problem when you're focusing on punching down on me. Don't ghost your therapist. Tell them with your full chest. It's easy to say, "Oh, it took me so long to find this one, and I don't want to have that hard conversation." But can't you see that your inability to go back to the drawing board for your own mental health might be part of the problem? Mourning and grieving are not the same thing. Treating them as such is why so many people feel guilty about grieving for a year or more. The reality is we grieve for our whole lives. It changes over time, looks and feels different, and in many ways might be invisible. Don't turn an unseen thing into another thing to pathologize. You weren't bad at school. You were either in the wrong school, had undiagnosed ADHD, depression, anxiety, autism, had a racist teacher, studied the wrong things, or all of the above or some mix of them. And you probably didn't have the resources around you to inform you that there is a method to studying and researching. The me 12 years ago that froze during any type of public speaking would be baffled that I present online and at festivals, out of state for strangers. It's not you, it's what you didn't know. Legacy is more than the money you made or how many clients you served. It's about the impact made and if you lived a life of integrity. We know when we fail with our full chest, but we tend to downplay successes because the outcome is more complicated than the black and white nature of failing. Challenge yourself to reframe how you relate to both, and you might just appreciate the failures more than the successes. Failure does tend to be the more assertive teacher, after all. A life of integrity isn't always about getting it right. It's about accepting failures and knowing that mistakes were made. Sometimes by you, sometimes by others, sometimes both. If you feel like being who you are is a mistake only around a certain group of people, but then nobody else, it might be time for new friends. If a friend group seems too good to be true, and there's perhaps a leader everybody is so afraid of upsetting, you don't have a friend group, you may have a cult, at the very least you have a toxic friend group, where nobody really loves and accepts each other for their true selves, and there's probably zero accountability. Let yourself have lots of different separate groups of friends, even briefly, to heal from past wounds. It'll be very helpful for discerning your personal failings against that of the other people you were once enmeshed with. Some things should be personal and private, but if it feels like the public you and the private you have a giant chasm in between, fight like hell to figure out why that is. Lack of addressing the shadow part of you means it could take over, lash out, because you've been ignoring it for far too long. If you find yourself fearing things like a 12-house year because your past experiences with it, or even how others sensationalize it, have rendered you into a state of fear, remember that everything has its time and cycle. Nothing is ever wholly one thing, good or bad. Aging isn't a guarantee. but a huge privilege. If you embrace the descent and go in armed with curiosity and conviction, you can weather more than you imagined. Thank you to Karina, Georgia, Jess, Laura, and Mallow, and the Wowls, and thank you to my other patrons for sponsoring this video. Thank you for watching. I hope that even a few of these inspired you or made you feel seen. I'll see you in the next one.